Galatians 1 verse 11 and 12. But I certify you, brethren, that the gospel which was preached of me is not after man. For I neither received it of man, neither was I taught it, but it was a revelation of Jesus Christ. So here we can clearly see that Paul comes and he says some very significant things. He says that the gospel that he was preaching is not after man, and neither was it given to him by the Jews of that time. That's what he's trying to say. He says that the gospel that he is preaching came to him by revelation of Jesus Christ. In other words, Jesus taught this to him himself in a very specific way by an appearing, which I will touch on soon. He's saying here, but I certify you. We can find that Paul wants people to be certain. Think of a letter that you take to the police office to have it certified, to make sure it is the original thing. So he says, I want you to be certain. I want you to know for sure that the message that I have does not come from any of these apostles. It was not something that was revealed to me by the Jews. This is not a Jewish thing. I never came. I was never sent by any of the Jews. The time when I was sent by the Jews, I was trying to please them. The time when I was sent with a letter to go and catch the church and put them in jail and try and destroy the church, that time is over. I'm not sent by man anymore. Neither now in the gospel have I been sent by anyone. So nobody can come and tell lies. And I want to certify you, I want you to know that the gospel that I received was not I was not sent by James. I was not sent by any group. I want you to know that. The revelation that I have of Jesus Christ himself. It says, but I certify you, brethren, that the gospel which was preached of me is not after man. So he's also saying, that which I have preached to you is not something that comes from people. It is a God message. It is God speaking to you. Although he is speaking through me, this message is not something that I'm carrying over from another man. It is something that I am telling you, and I have received it from God. He says it is also not after man. When we talk about after man, it's not within the parameters of man's logic, where man has to do 5 or 10 good things in order for him to have life, or where man can trust in his own ability to do the law. It is not after that. It's not a law mixture message. This is something that's completely new, something that people has not really known, although it was spoken from the beginning. It says here, for I neither received it of man, neither was I taught it. So he is saying, this message that I have was never part of the way I was thinking. This is not the way Judaism was taught. This was not taught when I was under Gamaliel, when I was part of the Jewish system, when I still believed in circumcision, when I still believed in the old traditions of the church, when I was sent by those who sent me to enforce and see that the law system is working. I'm not sent by anyone with that. It's not after man. It's not after circumcision. It's not after our obedience to the laws. It's none of that. It is a brand new thing. I was not taught this by any rabbi. I was not taught this by any man. The way it came to me, he says, was by revelation. And that word revelation there, I want to just read that to you. I was taught that by revelation. The word revelation there is apocalypsis. Apocalypsis, where we get the word apocalypse from, the end of all things. So what Paul is saying, he says, I was not taught this gospel. I was not taught this by any man. I saw the end of all things. I saw the disclosure of all things. And when the disclosure, the end of all things appeared to me, which is the Jesus that was crucified, resurrected in an immortal body, from there my good news comes. That is the good news, that God has now in human flesh conquered sin and death. Paul got a revelation on what is the resurrection like, and understood that the resurrection, which would be at the end of time, has now entered into the middle of time in one man, and that the resurrection in the end of time is accessed through this one man that has conquered sin and death. So Paul comes and he says his message that he preaches is from a revelation of seeing the end, seeing where everything is going to end, seeing what God's plan is for man, understanding Titus 1, where he says that the word of life that was from the beginning has now been revealed. John's talk, John's language, where he was saying that message of eternal life which was from the beginning, we started to see it. And now that we saw this resurrection life, we have a gospel. We've got a message. And that gospel is that God has conquered sin and death. And in that gospel, there is no place for a message that comes from the Judaizers. There's no place for Jew, Gentile, ethnicity, division message, gospel language. There's no place for you becoming part of this by circumcision. There's no place for that. That is a cursed message. That is human power. That is after man, because man must do. But this message is not after man, but after God. And that is all about the doing of God.